Hello everyone, so in this video let us talk about the problem from the latest code courses round 828, problem name for increment. Let's start. So you're given that you have n integers from until and you have q queries to proceed. Now the queries are of these forms. If it's the form 0 and a x of j or 1 of x of j. First is some type and another is so if it's of first type which is of 0, then what will happen is that you will add x of j to all even numbers inside. And if it is a one type, you will add the x of j number to all the odd numbers. Well, now you have to do this particular operation number of times, and after processing number of sum of elements of the all the sum of the arrays, okay, the sum of all the elements will be printed out after doing this particular just that's it. That have the particular, let's say for the first is the number of arrays inside the array, which is n, okay, and then the query number of have, and then the total numbers and the different type of query types and now, how will you proceed such a problem? First, you have to understand that it's very simple to grasp the intuition that we have two types of number also. The numbers will be even or odd inside the array. If I want to add x of j of this type, we will add it to all the even numbers. So I don't have to individually think of all the even numbers. We can just accumulate all the even numbers and just think that this is one of the groups and the other numbers are another group. So we should have, let's say, like all the number, like how many even numbers we have, because let's say you can just assume that this is the total sum of all the elements. Okay, these are all the numbers. I'm just assuming it's bag. Okay, you can just assume array also. So we have all the numbers like this. Now what you can see is that there are some even numbers inside this. Let's say it is equal to, and let's say some odd numbers inside it, which, okay. Now what we'll do eventually is that, let's say we have to add let's say 10 to all the even numbers, and we have to find out the sum total, final sum. So let's say we have 5 even numbers and 8 odd numbers. We know the sum of them. Okay, we can directly just get the sum of them by just iterating for them in the very first iteration. Okay, at the very first time, let's say the sum of them is, let's say, 100. Let's just get the sum of all these even numbers and odd numbers. Now we have to add 10 on all the even numbers. If you have to add 10 on all the even numbers, what will happen? How many times 10 will be added inside the whole? Because the number of even is 5 and we have 10 as a number, we will be adding at, say, like how many even numbers I have at that particular state at that particular time. So let's say I have 5 even numbers. I have to add 10 to all the even numbers. So obviously 10 will be added to all the even numbers. So eventually 10 is added. Let's say like total sum that will be added to the total sum is 50. So obviously this 50 will be added to the total sum, and that's it. We get the total sum in the new form. Now, because this 10 is added to all the even numbers, whether all the even numbers state will be changed. What I mean by this is, let's say all the even numbers, let's assume that the numbers are 2, 3, or let's say 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. There are 5 even numbers, the 5 even numbers are like this. Let's just, okay. If I add 10 to all the even numbers, eventually the even numbers will stay even number because I'm adding even number to even number. But if I have added, let's say, 11 to the even numbers, then the total number of added, the total sum was 11 into 5, that is 55. That is, I can just directly add 55 to the total sum that we have, that is good. But because I've added odd number to an even number, it just flips the, you can say, parity of all the even numbers, and in that scenario all the even numbers will be converted to odd numbers, and thus whatever even numbers I have in the next state, they all become odd numbers. So I just have to think about how many even numbers I have, okay, the total count of it, because that's the total count that will be added eventually. Okay, like let's say I have 11, and how many even numbers are there, so I just have to understand how many count of even numbers there. What is the total value of them? I don't have to understand. I just have to show the total accumulation of all the sum of all the even numbers, because for that scenario we will get how much even or odd number that will be added. Okay, if they are all converted to odd, we just have to store a two count, let's say a count of even number and odd numbers at any given moment of time. And if they're all converted from even to odd, you will just take all the even numbers, make it 0, and add it to odd numbers. And similarly, if we have some odd numbers and if we add another odd number to it, become even. So in that scenario, if you have some odd numbers, we'll convert it them. That's it. That's the overall logic that we'll be using out. I'll just show you part, but that's the overall logic that will be used. That's the good part now. So what we'll see here is that we have the n array and the q total number of queries we have, that is the total. sum, we'll set all the arrays, all the elements at the array, we'll find out the sum. So we have just stored the sum in the first iteration, in the very iteration input of all the elements inside the array. And also we have counted out how many even or odd numbers are there. So we have just make an array of 0 and 1. Okay, 1. 0 means that it has even number, odd means that it has b of odd number. So you have taken every number, modded with 2, that we get that whatever it is even odd number, and just add it inside this array. And so that we have the total count of like the total even and odd numbers inside this whole array. Now we will set it over all the query, and the query is taking out the type and the y value. Let's say I have add any number. Okay, so let's say it is of type even, so we will take out for even numbers from this array, and if it is odd, we'll get the odd count from this. So if I have, let's say I want to add this much of value, so let's say I want to add 55 even numbers, so I can just get even numbers. 55 is added, and that total value is added inside the. So we will just get the total updated sum after doing this whole up. And that is get the total sum, we just print out. But we have to do one operation in which we just have to check that whether the number that I'm adding, okay, that is y, it is odd. If it is odd, then we have to flip these things. Because if it is even added to even, it is even added to odd, it is still. But if it's the odd number, odd is added to odd, it will just change its parity. Similarly, odd is added to even. So we will only like thought about odd numbers. So if this y that we are adding inside all these numbers, all these even odd numbers, whatever, if it is odd, what will happen? We'll just flip the parity, which means that if it is an odd number, like if the number that I'm adding is odd, on the odd numbers, all the odd number will become even. And if it is even number, it will become odd. So we'll just get 1 minus x to get the reverse parity, and all the other numbers will be added to this. So let's say if they are even numbers, all the even numbers are added to odd numbers. All the odd numbers are added to even. That is how we can add them. And then we just, which means that the original, because it is, let's say all the even numbers are added to odd numbers. So all the even numbers will, that's it. The answer adjustment. That's all logic in the code part for this problem as well. If you still not check my comment box of this problem, I will see you next one. Like